Imagine waking up tomorrow with no boss to answer to, no alarm dragging you out of bed for someone else's dream, and money moving into your account while you sleep. That life is not a fantasy reserved for the privileged or the lucky. It is being built right now by ordinary Filipinos, some in small apartments in Taguig, others in the provinces of Cebu and Davao, who made one decision that changed everything. They stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started with what they had. What you are about to discover are 5 of the most powerful, most practical, and most profitable small business ideas available in the Philippines in 2026, backed by real data, real trends, and real people who are already winning with them. If even one of these speaks to you, it could be the turning point your life has been waiting for. The Philippine economy is doing something remarkable right now. After years of turbulence, the country is entering a phase of digital maturity and economic momentum that experts say creates the ideal environment for small businesses to thrive. GDP growth is projected to climb between 6 and 7%, and consumer spending continues to rise across both urban and provincial markets. Small and medium enterprises, which account for the overwhelming majority of registered businesses in the country, are being actively supported by government programs offering training, capital access, and market linkages. The barriers that once made entrepreneurship feel impossible for everyday Filipinos are coming down faster than at any point in history. This is not a coincidence. It is a window, and the smartest move anyone can make right now is to step through it. Before getting into the businesses themselves, it is worth understanding why 2026 is fundamentally different from any previous year when it comes to starting something of your own. Over 76 million Filipinos are now online, spending an average of 9 hours a day connected to the internet. Mobile payment systems have made transactions seamless even in areas where banking infrastructure is limited. Platforms like Shopee and Lazada have created ready-made marketplaces where a seller with zero name recognition can reach millions of buyers in days. Logistics networks have expanded so significantly that a business operating out of a home kitchen in Batangas can now deliver products to a customer in Cagayan de Oro within 48 hours. The infrastructure for small business success has never been more accessible, and the cost of entry has never been lower. There is also a psychological shift happening across Filipino society that is worth paying attention to. The generation now entering its peak earning and spending years grew up watching hustle culture unfold online. They followed creators who documented their business journeys, celebrated their first sales, and showed that financial independence through entrepreneurship was achievable without a college degree from a top university or a connection to an established family network. This cultural shift has created both a massive pool of aspiring entrepreneurs and a consumer base that actively prefers to support small, authentic, relatable brands over faceless corporations. That combination, of motivated sellers and loyal buyers, is the secret ingredient that makes small business in the Philippines so compelling in 2026. One more thing before getting into the list. Every single business idea covered here shares 3 characteristics that matter when you are starting with limited capital and limited time. First, they all have proven demand in the Philippine market right now. Second, they can all be started with manageable initial investment, meaning you do not need to take out a massive loan or sell your motorcycle to get started. Third, they are all scalable, meaning what starts as a side hustle can grow into a full-time income and eventually into something that employs other people and builds real generational wealth. These are not theoretical ideas pulled from a foreign business blog. They are grounded in the realities of the Philippine market, the Filipino consumer, and the economic conditions of this specific moment in time. Keep that in mind as each one is explored. The first business idea is cloud kitchen food delivery, and it may be the single most powerful opportunity on this entire list for someone who loves food and wants to start a business without the crushing overhead of a traditional restaurant. Here is the core concept. Instead of renting a commercial space, decorating it, hiring a large staff, and hoping foot traffic converts into paying customers, a cloud kitchen operates entirely for delivery. You cook from a dedicated kitchen space, list your food on platforms like GrabFood and Foodpanda, and let the orders come to you digitally. The overhead is a fraction of what a traditional restaurant would cost, and the scalability is far greater. In the Philippines, the food delivery industry is projected to reach over $7 billion by 2029, growing at more than 10% annually. That is not a niche market. That is a national habit. What makes cloud kitchens especially powerful in 2026 is the level of demand that already exists for specific types of food that are underserved on delivery platforms. Health-conscious Filipino meals, regional specialties from provinces like Ilocos and Bicol, authentic home-cooked dishes that taste like something a grandmother would make, these categories are consistently among the most searched and highest rated on food delivery apps, yet they remain massively underpopulated by sellers. A home cook who can reliably produce one or two specialty dishes at a consistent quality level has everything needed to launch a cloud kitchen brand. The startup costs for a basic cloud kitchen setup, covering equipment, packaging, initial ingredients, and platform registration, can begin at under 30,000 pesos for someone who already has a functional home kitchen. For the right person, the return on that investment can be realized within weeks, not years. The second business idea is e-commerce through Shopee or Lazada, but not in the generic sense that most people imagine when they hear that phrase. The key to succeeding in Philippine e-commerce in 2026 is not to sell everything to everyone. It is to identify a specific niche with high demand and low seller saturation and own it completely. Think about smart home devices, locally made organic skincare, sustainable fashion, or curated wellness products sourced from small Philippine manufacturers. Buyers on these platforms are increasingly sophisticated. They research before purchasing, they read reviews carefully, and they reward sellers who build a coherent brand identity around a specific promise. A store that sells one category of products exceptionally well will always outperform a store that tries to be everything to everyone. What most aspiring e-commerce sellers do not realize is that the logistics infrastructure supporting Philippine online retail has matured to a point where a small seller operating from a spare bedroom can offer the same delivery speed and reliability as a large commercial distributor. Platforms provide built-in tools for inventory management, customer communication, and promotional campaigns that were once available only to businesses with dedicated marketing teams. The playing field has leveled dramatically. Dropshipping models, where you sell products without holding physical inventory and only fulfill orders after payment is received, have also made it possible to test multiple product categories simultaneously without significant upfront investment. Starting a Shopee or Lazada store in 2026 requires more strategic thinking than it did 5 years ago, but the reward for getting the strategy right is proportionally greater as well.
The third business idea is digital marketing services, and this one deserves special attention because of how severely underestimated it is by most aspiring entrepreneurs in the Philippines. Every business in the country, from the sari-sari store on the corner to the growing real estate firm in Makati, needs some form of online presence management in 2026. Social media pages need content. Websites need to rank in search results. Promotional campaigns need to reach the right audiences. And the majority of small business owners in the Philippines simply do not have the time, knowledge, or inclination to handle this themselves. That gap is an enormous business opportunity for anyone willing to learn the skills and position themselves as the person who bridges it. Social media management, search engine optimization, content creation, and paid advertising are all services with growing demand and limited supply of qualified local providers at the small business price point. The investment required to start a digital marketing services business is almost entirely in knowledge rather than capital. Courses covering Google Ads, Facebook and Instagram marketing, content strategy, and basic graphic design are available at low cost or for free through platforms like YouTube, Coursera, and Google's own digital skills programs. Someone who spends 2 to 3 months genuinely mastering one or two of these areas can begin approaching local small business owners with an offer to manage their online presence for a monthly retainer. Starting rates in the Philippine market for social media management range from 5,000 to 15,000 pesos per client per month. A service provider with 5 consistent clients is already generating a full-time income without any physical storefront, no inventory to manage, and the ability to work from anywhere with a stable internet connection. The scalability from there into an agency with a small team is a direct and well-trodden path. The fourth business idea is the Sari Sari store model reimagined for 2026. And before dismissing this as something too traditional, too small, or too familiar, consider what happens when this deeply Filipino institution is combined with modern technology and a sharper understanding of consumer behavior. The traditional Sari Sari store is already one of the most resilient business formats in Philippine history. It requires minimal startup capital, operates from the home, serves an immediate and perpetually recurring need, and generates consistent daily cash flow. The problem is that most Sari Sari stores operate exactly the same way they did 20 years ago, which means they are leaving enormous amounts of revenue on the table. The 2026 version of this business is something entirely different. Integrating digital payment options through GCash or Maya instantly expands a store's customer base beyond whoever happens to walk by on a given day. Adding bill payment services creates a recurring reason for community members to visit and builds the kind of daily foot traffic that sustains a healthy cash flow through every season of the year. Partnering with local delivery platforms to serve as a pickup or drop-off point generates additional income from logistics companies while increasing store visibility. Stocking higher-margin items like prepaid loads, online gaming credits, and basic health products alongside staple goods improves the profitability of every square meter of shelf space. A well-run modern Sari Sari store is not a small business in the diminished sense of that phrase. It is a community hub, a financial services point, a micro-logistics node, and a retail operation all in one, capable of generating genuinely meaningful monthly income for a family that runs it with intention and attention. The fifth and final business idea may be the most forward-looking of the group, and it represents a category of opportunity that is uniquely suited to 2026 specifically. That category is care services, encompassing elder care, childcare, and basic wellness support for Filipino families across both urban and provincial settings. The Philippine population is aging. Life expectancy has increased. Families are smaller than they were a generation ago, and the dual-income household has become the norm rather than the exception, particularly in cities. What that demographic reality has created is a growing and deeply underserved demand for professional, reliable, trustworthy care services that can support elderly parents and young children while their families are at work. This is not a niche. It is a national need that is only going to grow larger over the next decade. Starting a home-based care services business in the Philippines requires relatively modest capital investment, but rewards those who pursue proper certification through programs offered by TESTA. The Caregiver Certification Program is accessible, affordable, and gives a provider instant credibility in a sector where trust is the primary currency. A solo caregiver serving just 2 or 3 regular clients can generate an income that competes with many entry-level office positions. Those who build their reputation through consistent, compassionate service and then begin hiring and training additional caregivers are building a business model that has both high social impact and strong financial returns. In a country where family is the central organizing principle of society, the person who helps a family care for the people they love most occupies one of the most valued positions any business can hold. Now it is time to address something that most business content glosses over, but that makes the difference between someone who watches videos like this one forever and someone who actually builds something real. The gap between knowing about a business idea and executing on it is almost never about capital. It is almost never about connections, or education, or location. The gap is almost always about the specific fear of starting imperfectly. Every successful Filipino entrepreneur who built something meaningful started in a condition of imperfect information, imperfect resources, and imperfect circumstances. The fishball vendor who now operates a small chain of food stalls started with 1 borrowed cart. The Shopee seller generating 6 figures monthly started with 3 products and 0 reviews. The digital marketer who now manages accounts for mid-sized companies started by offering free work to a neighbor's small business in exchange for a testimonial. One of the most important strategic decisions a new entrepreneur in the Philippines can make is to begin with the smallest viable version of the business and use the revenue generated from that version to fund the next stage of growth. This approach, often called bootstrapping, eliminates the anxiety of debt, accelerates learning because real customers teach you faster than any course ever will, and creates momentum that compounds over time. A cloud kitchen that starts by perfecting one dish before adding a second. An e-commerce store that tests 3 products before committing to inventory. A digital marketing freelancer who serves one client excellently before seeking a second. This is not a strategy of small ambition. It is a strategy of disciplined execution that consistently produces larger outcomes than those who wait for perfect conditions before taking the first step. There is also the matter of legal foundation, which is something too many first-time entrepreneurs in the Philippines treat as optional until it becomes urgently necessary. Registering with the Department of Trade and Industry for a sole proprietorship, securing a mayor's permit from the local government unit, and obtaining a tax identification number from the Bureau of Internal Revenue are not bureaucratic burdens. They are the infrastructure of a real business. A registered business can access government loan programs for small enterprises, participate in official procurement opportunities, open corporate bank accounts, and attract partnerships that are closed to informal operators. More importantly, a registered business signals seriousness to customers, suppliers, and potential investors in a way that has a genuine commercial value that cannot be replicated by simply having a nice-looking social media page. The 5 businesses covered in this script represent 5 different entry points into entrepreneurship in the Philippines, and they are genuinely diverse in what they require from the person who pursues them. The cloud kitchen rewards someone who is passionate about food and willing to master the logistics of delivery-based operations. The e-commerce store rewards someone with a sharp eye for product-market fit and patience for building a brand reputation through consistent customer experience. The digital marketing services business rewards someone who is curious about technology, enjoys learning new tools, and has the communication skills to translate the value of online marketing into terms that small business owners can understand and act on. The modernized sari-sari store rewards someone who is deeply embedded in their community and understands that trust and convenience are products in themselves. And the care services business rewards someone who brings genuine warmth and reliability to work that is both personally meaningful and economically valuable. What all 5 share is a relationship with the direction that the Philippine economy is moving. Consumer behavior in the country is shifting toward convenience, quality, personalization, and trust. The businesses that will grow the fastest in 2026 and beyond are those that understand this shift and position themselves accordingly rather than operating on assumptions about what customers want that were accurate 10 years ago but are no longer true today. Reading the market correctly is a skill that can be developed, and it begins with the kind of honest, open-eyed observation of daily life that every Filipino already does naturally. What do people around you complain about not being able to find? What service do neighbors rely on that has only one unreliable provider? What product do people buy from overseas sellers on Shopee that could be sourced and offered locally? The answers to those questions are the seedbed of the next generation of Filipino small business success stories. The Philippines in 2026 is a country at a genuinely interesting economic inflection point. Infrastructure development, digital adoption, a young and growing consumer class, and active government support for entrepreneurship are all converging at the same moment. History shows that periods of economic transition like this one consistently produce a disproportionate number of successful small business founders who started with ordinary resources and built extraordinary outcomes by simply moving earlier than everyone else. The people who will be the success stories that future videos celebrate are not sitting on some special advantage. They are watching the same content, living in the same neighborhoods, and facing the same uncertainties as everyone else. The only thing that will separate them from everyone else is that they will make a decision and follow through on it, imperfectly and persistently, until the momentum of that commitment builds into something undeniable. Start with one idea. Do the research specific to your market, whether that is a barangay in Quezon City or a municipality in Leyte. Talk to potential customers before spending a single peso. Understand what they actually need rather than what you assume they need. Take the registration steps seriously from the beginning. Invest in learning the skills that will make the execution of your chosen business better than what already exists in your area. And treat every early failure not as a sign that the business idea is wrong, but as data that tells you exactly what to adjust. That cycle of trying, learning, and adjusting is not just how businesses are built. It is how the entrepreneurs who build them become the kind of people capable of sustaining something significant over time. The opportunity is here. The market is ready. The only question left is whether you are going to be one of the people who takes it.